7 out of every 19 years are leap years. And those years are fixed. It's the 3rd, the 6th, the 8th, the 11th, 14th, and 17th year are all leap years. So first of all, what does that matter? It matters because we add a whole extra month to any year that's a leap year. I think I need to start this process over. So hold on a second. Let me see if we're working, if we're on YouTube. Start this. Oh, good. Okay. Okay, it looks like we're working. Leap years are different from normal years because there's a whole extra month in the Hebrew year, a whole extra month of Adar. And that means that if you're counting the months of the Hebrew calendar, they're Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, Adar, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, and Elul. On leap years, 7 out of every 19 years, there's a whole extra month of Adar. Adar is the month of Purim. So when you get to Adar, if it's a leap year, you add first what's called Adar 1, and then you have Adar 2. And so in a normal year, there's 12 months, and in a leap year, there are 13 months because there's that extra month of Adar. Now, that makes a difference because first of all, Purim happens a month later. And if you have a yortzeit in that year, let's say you have a yortzeit, somebody passed away during a leap year in the first month of Adar, and Adar 1. Then in a leap year, you would mark the yortzeit in the first month of Adar, whereas in a not leap year, you would mark it only in the 1 Adar that we would recognize. So I want to show you a cool trick, first of all, to remember which years are the leap years. So I'm going to share my screen to GarageBand. So we can see this is, of course, a piano in front of us. And this is going to help us remember which are the leap years. So we're going to take this scale, a C major scale. And here's how it works. We're going to start from here, and we're going to count every single step. And then when we get to a new white note, that's going to be another leap year. So check it out. It's going to be like this. 1, 2, 3. That's our first white note. So that's number 3. So that's how you remember that the first leap year is in the 3rd year. And then we're going to count that one again. We're going to go 4, 5, 6. We're on a new white note. So the 6th year. 7, 8. That's the 8th year. 9, 10, 11. So in the 11th year. 12, 13, 14 in the 14th year. 15, 16, 17 in the 17th year. Then 18, 19 in the 19th year. So it's a very cool connection between the music, a piano octave, and the leap year cycle. So we'll do that again, watch. So which years are the 7 out of 19 leap years that we have in a year? Check it out. 1, 2, 3, the 3rd year. 4, 5, 6, the 6th year. 7, 8, the 8th year. 9, 10, 11, the 11th year. 12, 13, 14, the 14th year. 15, 16, 17, the 17th year. And 18, 19, the 19th year. And just to remind you, it's not random. It's whenever we get to a new white note here, that's how you know that that's a leap year. If that's confusing, the Jewish calendar is definitely not simple. But I want to share with you right now, it's fixed. which is to say we know exactly which years are going to be leap years. Before we had a fixed calendar, about 2,000 years ago, the leap years would be determined by a central rabbinical court in Jerusalem. And it would be determined based on the spring equinox. Why the spring equinox? Because Passover in the Torah is called, it says it's celebrated in the spring. So Passover always has to be celebrated in the spring, after the spring equinox, which is March 20th. So in a year where in the Hebrew calendar, if we don't add a month, Passover would have been celebrated before March 20th, that central rabbinical court added an extra month that year to make sure Passover happens in the spring, to push it off. Now, you might ask, why is it that we can't just find a perfect calendar, that we don't have to have any leap years whatsoever? And I'll tell you, it's that timekeeping is very complicated. If you take a year, for instance, a solar calendar year, we're talking roughly 365 days, but even that's not exact. And then if you take into account, if you try to make that into a lunar calendar, where you have maybe 29 or 30 days, we'll call it 29 and a half. If you multiply 12 times 29 and a half, you only get 354 days. So the lunar calendar is roughly 11 days short of the solar calendar. And so our calendar is unique in that it's a solar and a lunar calendar. The Gregorian calendar is entirely solar. The Muslim calendar, for comparison, is entirely lunar. But ours is a mix of solar and lunar, which is to say we celebrate our holidays by the lunar months. But we require that our holidays fall in certain seasons. So if we were only lunar, then those 11 days would push everything back every single year. If we were only lunar, then sometimes Passover would be in the spring. Sometimes it would be in the summer. Sometimes it would be in the winter. Sometimes it would be in the fall, because the lunar calendar, because it's missing those 11 days in comparison to the solar calendar, it would continue to push all of our holidays, into different seasons. That happens in the Muslim calendar, where Ramadan is sometimes in the summer, sometimes in the spring, sometimes in the winter, sometimes in the fall. We need to figure out a way, or we needed to figure out a way to make up for those 11 days. And so every few years, it used to be that the central rabbinical court in Jerusalem would determine it was a leap year to make sure that our holidays fell in their proper season. They would add a whole extra month. Now we know exactly when those leap years are. We don't have a central rabbinical court in Jerusalem that determines it. We just know it's in the 3rd year, the 6th year, the 8th year, the 11th, 14th, 17th, and 19th. The beginning of the last 19-year cycle was in the year 5777. Right now we're in the year 5780. So we're in the 4th year right now. It's not a leap year this year. This is year 4 of 19, which means the next leap year is going to be in 2 years, 5782. Now, why does all of this matter? On the one hand, to your average Jewish person, it really, you won't really notice if it's a leap year or not. Purim will be, whenever, the calendar says Purim is. Passover will be wherever it says, that holiday is. But if you want to know what's happening underneath, if you want to know why sometimes the calendar feels longer. This is the reason, because we add in a whole extra month, and knowing where we are in the cycle can give you a greater sense and appreciation for, the complexities of our calendar. With that, I did not plan on this being a long lunch and learn. Only I wanted to show you the cool connection between an octave on the piano and knowing when the leap years are. So I'm going to do it again as a kind of trick to remember where the leap years are. So remember, we're gonna, and this can work with any major scale, but we're just gonna do a C major scale because that it's easy to see. So whenever you hit another white note, that's another leap year. And don't forget, once you hit a white note, you're gonna count it again as you move forward. So watch this. 1, 2, 3. So year number 3 is a leap year. We're gonna count that one again. 4, 5, 6. Year 6 is a leap year. 7, 8. Year 8 is a leap year. 9, 10, 11. Year 11. 12, 13, 14. Year 14. 15, 16, 17. Year 17. And then 18, 19. Year 19. There is so much more about the Jewish calendar that we can go into, but that, just knowing this, will put you in the small percentage of Jews who can actually explain why we have leap years and how to know when they are. So again, the next one is going to be in 2 years. We're in year number 4 of our 19-year cycle. And of course, if there's any questions on this, you're welcome to always email me to ask any more. So with that, we're going to sign off for today, and I wish you all a good afternoon.